G'day, welcome to Country Life on the Coast. In this episode we're going to review the Ryobi planting and digging tool. Again. We've previously done a review of the Ryobi planting and digging tool, and that was an unboxing of it, and we dug a couple of holes to test it out, see how it went. If you want to have a look at that, I'll link that in the description below. Now I thought we would do another review after we've used it to dig more than 100 holes for our fence posts that we've been working on. If you want to see it in action, have a look at some of the fencing videos, especially the early ones, where I show it in action and how it's operated. But we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of it now. So if you're looking at buying one of these, it's probably why you're watching this video. First thing to consider, I think, is what soil type you're digging in. So what we have here is a bit of topsoil, the top couple 100 millimeters, and then we go into clay. And I've found this to work quite well through the clay. There's some tricks we'll talk about later that help, but overall it seems to handle clay quite well. I imagine that if you've got sand, it would go through that even easier. Yeah, depending on what other soil types you have, it may work. Now, there was a few posts I had to dig on the other side fence where there was some gravel from the neighbour's retaining wall actually, and I tried using this through the top part of the gravel. Didn't work. If you're going to dig holes around gravel, don't use this. You're going to have to find another tool, and I actually used another post hole digger just to get me down through the gravel. Once I got back down into normal soil, I went back to the Ryobi. So there are times where you will need a normal post hole digger, or a shovel might work as well. So one of the other considerations for using this is if you're digging around trees. Now again, in the first couple of fencing videos that we put up, the fences went right beside trees, so it had some issues, but also I needed to learn how to use this properly. I think it was part of it as well. If you're going through thick tree roots, and when I say thick, you know, at least the size of your thumb, it will get through it if you use it correctly. Sometimes it's actually quicker to probably use the post hole digger. I found at times there were just a lot of thin tree roots, and again it would chew through that without any issue. But I also had some bigger tree roots that, yeah, I had to use other implements like the post hole digger at times as well. So if you have to dig around a lot of trees, then again, this might not be the right tool for you. Like I said, I did a heap down the back all around the trees, and I was able to dodge the bigger tree roots, and occasionally I would just move the hole over a little bit and then go down, and I was able to make that work without any difficulty. But if you've got to dig it in one particular spot and you know that you're going to be going near tree roots, then yeah, bigger tree roots this won't get through. Alright, well, I've been digging here for a while, trying to get through what I thought was a tree root, but I now reckon it's an old fence post. Now, all the holes I was digging were averaged about 650 mil. There were some I was getting down to 700, which is what I sort of aimed for. Others where I was hitting other things where I was getting down to 600, sometimes just under 600 millimeters. So still fairly deep holes. So I found that, you know, digging down 650 mil to 700 mils, well, the ground level would be at about this point. So that was my gauge of, you know, the depth. And after a while you sort of learn how deep you want to get to and just continue that. One of the issues with going down that deep is the battery life. So I know on the box, Ryobi says that with a 5 amp hour battery, you can dig up to 40 holes at 400 millimeters deep. So I was digging further than that, obviously, and I only have two 2.5 amp hour batteries, and I was getting, on a good day, 6 to 8 holes is what I would dig on those 2.5 amp hour batteries. If your plan is to just hit it over, the work you've got to do, if you plan to hit it on one day or over a couple of days, you're going to need a lot of batteries, rapid chargers, that sort of thing. I was lucky enough to be able to just do this afternoons, where I'd only have an hour before sunset sort of thing, and so I'd come out, I'd dig a few holes in the afternoon before the sun went down, and that's the way I've been able to stage this work. So it didn't affect me with that, but if you're digging those deeper holes, it will chew up the battery. The other thing with it is the kickback protection. So I've always left it on, and there's been a few times where it's actually spun me around before it's actually stopped, because it's hit a big tree root, or sometimes it's just solid or thick clay and it will spin you around. I've always recommended to leave that kickback protection on. I believe the way it works is it's like an electric brake. So when it hits something, it draws more on the battery. And so there were times out the back when I was hitting a lot of tree roots and that sort of thing and trying to get through it the way I was using it, and I'd get 3 holes maybe for the afternoon and flatten both of my 2.5 amp hour batteries. That's how much drain it can cause when you're digging that and like using the kickback protection a lot. So on that, what I found after a little while of doing it was that when you're using it, not to actually push down. So when I first started doing it, I'd be standing there over it, sort of holding it, but also pushing down a bit on it. And when you're hitting tree roots or that sort of thing, it'll just dig into that tree root or that heavy clay, and then if it doesn't have the power to cut through that, then the kickback protection operates and it just stops, and you start going, what is going on with this thing? So what I found was to actually just hold the weight. So as you're holding it, you're lifting it up just a little bit, and tree roots that are as thick as your thumb or a bit less than that, it'll actually just cut trim it off a little by little, basically, as it goes down, and then it'll get through that. So that was the biggest trick I found with using it. By doing that, I got through so much more, and rather than doing 3 holes in an afternoon, I could get 6 holes with both batteries. Now there's sections where you can't get that, and because of the tree roots and other things, and you have to use other tools that you still have issues. It was a big improvement anyway that I found, just taking a bit of weight off it and just letting the machine do the work, but not pushing, not forcing it. Another tip I have for you is that what I found was I would clean out the auger quite frequently. So rather than just keep digging and the soil come out and then just run off the sides, I believe that puts more load on the motor and hence draws more load on the battery. So what I was doing was I'd dig down a bit, pull it up, and then basically just shake off the dirt. Again, if you watch some of the previous fencing videos, you'll see me doing that all the time. And again, it was just to try and make the machine do less work, really. One other thing I found was that most time when I started digging through the grass, it would go down a little bit and then it would just sit there and spin around in circles. And what I found was that grass would accumulate just here in between the blades, really. And so I'd have to pull it out, just clean the grass out, or sometimes it was tree roots in there as well. And then it would, start up again, go back down, and it would start working and start digging its way down. But if you do it and it's just sitting there and going around in circles but not digging down, I found that happened not all the time, but enough times that I realised that that's what it was, and I'd soon pick it up, pull that out, and clean those off and away to go again, not a problem. One of the other issues I found that I had trouble with, because I was digging holes to put fence posts in, and obviously I want my fence post being vertical, was when you're standing up over this trying to drill a hole straight down. So you'll see in my fencing videos, if you watch any of those, that there's times I'll dig down a little bit and then I'll put a level on here and here just to get me a bit of a guide as to where I was going. And occasionally I'd go down a bit further and then do that again, because so often I found that I thought I was going straight down and I was, you know, off on some weird angle. And I found that just standing over the top of it, I lost perspective. It'd be really good if Ryobi had a little glass with the bubble in it, so you knew where level was and you could use that as your guide. But the tool doesn't have that, and like I said, if you're trying to drill a straight hole like that, well, that was the only way I could come up with it. There were still times when, if I didn't do that properly, you know, I'd have to come and use my post hole digger just to ream the hole out a bit and level it out more. So not a big issue, but you know, there is an improvement there, I reckon, and it would have made life a bit easier anyway. Overall, personally, I found it way better than digging all these holes by hand. Like I said, I've dug over 100 holes now with this, and I've still got some more to go. But overall, I'm really impressed with it. The final question to answer is, knowing what I know now, would I buy one? Or would I buy, you know, a petrol one or something like that? And for me, I would buy one of these for the situation I'm in. Like I said, I've explained different things for you, so you need to consider yourself which way you'd go, what suits your requirements. Doing the work the way I have with the batteries has worked fine. If I only could work on a particular day and wanted to do a heap, and you know, and then I would have had to buy more batteries to make it worthwhile. It's actually, you know, it doesn't take a lot out of you. I've found it not to be that strenuous, whereas using the post hole digger, it's a lot more physical work. So I found this the way to go. Like I said, I've got more holes to do still, so we'll use it more. That's really it in summary. Hope you found it informative, and certainly if you're looking at buying one, I hope it's answered some of your questions and you might consider it. Well, that's all we've got for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will catch you next time. God bless.